This video demonstrates the three-step procedure to charge the Hamden AC cart with Freon 134A. Only trained personnel should perform this procedure. In step 1, the residual Freon must be evacuated from the system. The recovery tank and Pinnacle 5115 recovery system are used for this process. Remove the plastic caps from the ports on both sides of the compressor and set aside. Connect the red hose between the low side of the compressor, i.e. left side, and the inlet suction port on the Pinnacle, again on the left side. Next, connect the yellow hose between the discharge outlet port of the Pinnacle and the liquid port on the recovery tank, identified by the blue valve. Open the blue-handled valve on the recovery tank. Open all the valves on the Hamden cart. You should only have to open the blue-handled valves. Rotate both inlet and outlet valves on the Pinnacle to open position. Use a 1/4-inch wrench to open the control valve on the low side of the compressor. Note, this is a left-handed thread. Toggle the power switch on the Pinnacle to on. Continue to run the Pinnacle and monitor the pressure gauges until a vacuum is attained, around 10 to 15 inches of mercury, which will take a while. Once the vacuum is attained, close the control valve on the low side of the compressor. Again, this is a left-handed thread. Close the blue valve on the recovery tank. Now close both inlet and outlet valves on the Pinnacle and then toggle the power off. At this point, you can remove all the hoses from the system and stow the equipment and tank in a safe place. There may be some residual Freon in the hoses when you remove from the Pinnacle. This is not uncommon. Finally, contact the U of M plant department for disposal of the recovery tank when it is full. In step 2, a vacuum pump is used to draw the system down to a vacuum. Install a hose adapter on the low side of the compressor. Use a wrench to snug securely. Hang the AC manifold in a convenient location. Only the blue and yellow hose will be used. Both ends of the red hose should be connected to the manifold. Connect the blue hose to the low side of the compressor. Remove the vertical brass cap from the vacuum pump, then connect the yellow hose. Open the control valve on the low side of the compressor. Keep in mind it's a left-handed thread. Fully open the blue manifold gauge valve. Toggle on the vacuum pump. Continue to run the vacuum and periodically monitor the gauges. Depending on the lab environment, it may take quite a while to draw the system down to a full vacuum, around -29 inches of mercury. Once a full vacuum is attained, you can close the control valve on the low side of the compressor. Close the blue manifold gauge valve. Toggle the vacuum pump to off, then disconnect the yellow hose. Return the vacuum pump to the storage cabinet. The final step is to charge the system with Freon 134A. We'll use a scale to monitor the weight of the tank as 3.5 pounds of Freon is added to the system. Turn on the scale and wait for it to zero before adding the tank. Remove the safety cap from the tank and connect the yellow manifold hose. Measure and record the initial weight of the Freon tank. In this case, the initial weight is 18.2 pounds. Open the valve on the Freon supply tank. Momentarily crack open the yellow hose fitting at the manifold to vent any trapped air. Then tighten securely. Fully open the blue manifold gauge valve. Open the control valve on the low side of the compressor. This is the left-handed thread. Monitor the gauges as the system slowly fills with Freon. Once a half pound of Freon is in the system, turn on the Hamden cart and run the compressor at 10 Hz, or low speed, by pressing the forward button, then using the up-down arrows to adjust the speed. As more Freon is added to the system, turn on the fans for the evaporator and condenser. Then ramp up the compressor speed to 30 Hz. With around 2 pounds of Freon in the system, ramp up the compressor to full speed, i.e. 60 Hz. When approximately 3.5 pounds of Freon has been added to the system, close the control valve on the low side of the compressor. Close the valve on the Freon supply tank. Close the blue manifold gauge valve. Disconnect the blue hose from the compressor. Then disconnect the yellow hose from the Freon supply tank. Ramp down the compressor speed to 10 Hz and then press the stop button. Turn off both the evaporator and condenser fans and then finally toggle the power switch off. For ME395, close all the valves with a blue handle.